little bit of a hard sell for you, but we feel very confident in what we're bringing to you today. Over the weekend, a few of us decided, you know what, we have a little bit of time to kill. The code base that we have is kind of causing some problems for us, so we don't have to worry about it during the week and the goals we got to hit. Let's spend a little time just kind of refactoring a bit of the code that's causing problems for us and make it a little bit smoother throughout the week. So yesterday in particular, pretty much all of us had a hand in breaking apart some of the code and trying to make it a little bit friendlier to work with. Doing so has provided us a lot of incredibly valuable insight. We now have a much deeper understanding of how the code is working, and perhaps more critically, we found issues that we think we're going to come across if we don't spend more time doing this. So, in a nutshell, our backend was kind of written, I'm going to say short-sighted. It wasn't really taking into account of features that were going to be implemented. And as such, like for example, at midnight, we just delete the old messages and they're gone now. And that doesn't work with where we need to head for our MVP. So if you're curious about the specifics of the backend, Nick's going to be our expert on that, and he can go into much more detail than what I can. But the gist of it is for us to proceed with, for example, Twilio being able to send messages back and forth. As of right now, we have no idea what's going on with the messages. If somebody sends a message to Twilio to respond to something, we have no idea what it's in reference to. It'd just be this big open chat room of anonymous users sending messages that have no reference to anything. So we want to spend a couple of days, and I have the Trello cards I can show you as well, factoring a bit of the code base that we have right now to help prepare for where we want to take this app. And it's going to save future teams a whole lot of time as well. What we're planning to build is going to be much more scalable. It's going to be much easier to digest and understand for teams coming in, and they're going to have a much better time adding anything they want to add to it. And I think Nick's got something he wants to jump in here with. Nick, do you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I do. Sorry, you were slow down there for a minute. The biggest thing is for MVP this week, we need to be feature complete and we need to have responsive design. We inherited a responsive design, so that MVP is complete, and we got to 95% completion on Friday because Slack is enabled and everything is running the way that it should. However, one of our feature complete MVPs is handling responses to messages that we send out via training bot. Based on the data model that we inherited, there isn't a way to do that. We could try a naive solution of just like checking the user, like how it was sent, but it, like AJ said, it leads to all of these problems with us not being able to know specifically which training message things are in reference to. And so where that leaves us is we can create a really bad hacky solution to try and get it done by Friday and not even really guarantee that it'll work or be stable, or we can spend through Wednesday lunch, and as we planned it out, it looks like through Wednesday lunch, getting the back end completely done, but it requires refactoring our data model in order to do that. We are all confident that can happen, and I am and also confident that in doing so, we can get MVP done. However, I, at the very least, as the person most familiar with the back end at this point, am not confident that we can hit MVP if we don't do this. And so that's kind of where we're at and what we're presenting you today.
So I'm confused. You're asking me for like the go to go ahead and rework the backend?
Essentially, Lambda very specifically, very early on said refactoring was a no-no. Don't burn any time doing it. We know that inheriting applications is relatively new, though, at Lambda. And so we have a Trello board. AJ, if you want to pull that up real quick and you can screen share. But ultimately, we know that some team at some point is going to need to refactor this application so that it's sustainable. We are so far ahead and capable at doing it that we think that team should be us, and kind of like break Lambda tradition a little bit to make sure that the next team that inherits this application is capable of moving the application forward even beyond what we're doing. AJ, you can go ahead and present the Trello board from there, unless Ed, you have any questions.
Oh, please proceed.
Sure. So a lot of the work we have to do is pretty light, honestly. So the front end, for example, is going to need a little bit of a rework. We want to redo how teams and series are going to take. That's I did the similar thing for one of our sections yesterday. It took me about 2 hours, and each one of these ought to be about there. So I mean, these two cards alone, you can probably combine them and get maybe half a day out of it. So this right here is a pretty light amount of work that we should have done today. Likewise, this is kind of rolled in here as well. We just want to create a consistent language inside of our application. Right now, the same stuff can have 3 different names, and it's just confusing and a nightmare to work with. So we just want to spend today on the front end, getting all that consistent, getting all that working the exact. In fact, you may have noticed we've hit some issues with bugs that have really eaten a lot of time, and those problems come down to what we are wanting to address with these cards right here. We want to spend half a day, 3/4 of a day, get this code base real tight, and prevent ourselves from spinning tires just trying to work on these bugs from a confusing code base. For the rest of the week on the front end, we just have to we have to fix a bug that we encountered last week with our date picker, which I think you were there for that. We just have a string of text right now. So we got to solve that. And we still have a lot of error messages in our console and just general buggy performance that we have. And the last thing we're going to need on here, which I don't have the card right now, is we just need to create some sort of like chat interface, not necessarily sending messages, but just receiving messages so people can see what people sent on the front end. As far as all that work goes, if we have 2 people working on that, zero question. I mean, we could be done by today. Absolute worst case scenario, that would be done by end of day tomorrow. Then on the back end, we have more of some of the work that Nick was talking about. We want to work on our responses endpoints to make sure people are actually able to send messages back and forth and not just be a one-way communication device like it is right now. We want to, and this is what Nick was talking about, we want to normalize just basically everything that's going on in the back end and create a much more consistent language for us and for future teams as well. We want to make sure that we basically attach IDs onto our messages for like Slack and SendGrid and Twilio. So that way we know when we get a response what it's in reference to. And then just a couple of small things we want to finish up on Slack with the OAuth. Right now it works fine for our one workspace. We just need to distribute the bot and add some OAuth approval to get it working on any workspace, not just ours. And with this, we'll easily be sitting at a 3 at the end of the week.
Okay, great. Thanks for presenting, guys. So basically, if I'm understanding correctly, those 3. I mean, I know it wasn't just the 3, but those 3 cards before the OAuth card. Those are the main priorities that you're going to have at the back end. And if I'm understanding this, clearly you're looking at Wednesday through lunch is the time that you're giving yourselves for this, and you're aware that your responsiveness is kind of like a coupon, since you're inheriting a project that's already responsive.
So we're kind of adding this on in its place in a way.
Yeah, and the misgivings that you have of this is because of the fact that the taboo of touching the existing backend and factoring the backend, which I'm not sure is something that can be avoided for what it is that you're showing me. And the only reason that I'm hesitant to even just say to push that red button and say yes, do it, let's do it. It's just because of the fact that I want to confer with Joshua before I give the okay on that, which I don't think is out of the question. In fact, I would feel pretty good about it. However, it's just not my decision to make. And since it's Joshua's back, it's no longer Ryan. So Ryan was like the bookmark while Joshua was gone. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm recording this check-in, and I'm going to upload it for him to watch and confer with him. I'm going to be doing other check-ins right now, but I specifically slayed them a little bit earlier than usual today, so I could address some things afterward. So I wasn't racing the clock as much as usual. So can I? Let's do it like this. is it in the realm of possibility that I can give an answer to you, yes or no, before end of day today? Is that
Yes,
doable?
absolutely.
That would be perfect, yeah. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the back end and why some things need to be refactored. I've spent a decent amount of time here figuring out everything that's going on and like how we're passing data around.
Sure. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. Just because I don't want to have any smoke or mirrors going into this beyond today. So without a doubt, within the next few hours, I'll have an answer for you. I'm sorry I can't give you one right this second, but I just don't want to say one thing and find out that together. So
we kind of figured when we came up with this, it wasn't just going to be simple. Yes, go ahead and do it, guys. So we did our homework a little bit to make sure we had a strong reason for wanting to do this.
I mean, it's not like we haven't been down this road before. I know that we've had to have this conversation with somebody before too. So great. So what I'm going to do now is once we end this meeting, I'll have it uploaded and then I'll send it to him. And if I don't hear from him in a short amount of time, then I'll what they decide to do to keep him.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah. And
is there anything?
No, the only thing I just wanted to make sure that is very, very clear for you, but especially for Joshua. If he does intend to have this project grow, to have a 3.0 and a 4.0 and whatever he wants, this needs to be handled for that growth to happen. So he needs to decide if he wants this group that is already ahead and that is so intimately familiar, handle it now, or some future group that he doesn't know is going to have to handle it then. So that's a big thing for his decision to weigh in on.
Can I just comment too? I think, and the reason why this is happening now and not like last week was because of the switch with MS Teams, the feature. I think, if the reply was always a feature that was going to be implemented for MVP, like it wouldn't be doing this. So it's just like a unique situation.
Yeah, no, all valid points. And thank you everybody for sharing your thoughts on this. And yeah, no, that's all I need to know. I'll pass along to him right now. I'll start uploading since we ended, and we'll go from there. And I'll talk to you shortly, and we'll go from there. Sound good?
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again with me, guys. Talk to you soon.